I've got 4,000 Blu-rays. Who gives a rat's ass? So I've been a physical media collector since technically 2008. I'm going to say 2009, but technically it's been since 2008. So however that is, do the math. And I wanted to do a video kind of talking about the mistakes I made. And this can also go for you if you just simply are a physical media collector, specifically in horror, really. Or if you do physical media, YouTube, stuff like that in general. This can kind of go for both people. Now, I'm not preaching. I'm not telling you this is the way to be. I'm just telling you the mistakes that I feel I made. And because I've been doing this for a while, I wanted to get this video out there. I think it's always good to be transparent about the things you've done, how you've done it, and what you learned from it. So let's get kind of into this, guys. The first thing I'm going to say, one of the biggest mistakes I've made with physical media, and it's honestly something that I think a lot of people battle with and deal with, and it's just the reality of it, especially if you do YouTube, is trying to keep up with the game. And what do I mean by that? I'll tell you this, guys. Specifically apps like Instagram, for instance. Now, I'll say this, of all these social media apps, Instagram's my favorite. Why do I like Instagram? Because I've met awesome people on there. It's all pictures, it's less drama, and it's, for the most part, a fun experience. I have friends that I'm very close with that I simply met just using Instagram. But here's the reality. With physical media, I've noticed with Instagram, it's always, or a lot of times it can be who can get the picture of X release that just came out first, or who can take the best picture of it. And with that comes trying to own and buy everything that comes out. I have been victim to this so many times before, and some of those movies I would post about, if this was really bad for me in like 2020, because I remember in 2020 we were getting that little bit of extra money from unemployment, right, when Biden was handing out that cash for the unemployment, and I was out of work for a while, my wife was out of work for a while, and I was just ordering movies left and right. Anything that was coming out, I was getting it. Now, at the time, I thought it was a fun thing to do, but looking back, I realized half of those movies I didn't even watch yet. But the reason I was doing that, because I was like, oh, this is coming out, I gotta get this, I gotta get this, I can afford this right now, blah, 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 I gotta post this on Instagram, and just trying to keep up with the Joneses, as I think is one of the expressions. That can be a big problem, and it can cost you a ton of money. Now, this is probably something we've all had moments of or internalized. And when I tried to stop myself and think about that, it really hit me hard how I fell victim to that. Now, some of you are probably very strong-willed people, and that may not be an issue for you. But, and I'm not calling anybody out, because I'm telling you I've made the mistake. I'm not saying I see this or this person's a problem or this. I see these things happen, and I've been a victim to it. And the thing about that is, you have to understand that the internet is not a real place. So a lot of times you could see these things posted, like if you're on Instagram, if it's new release day, you see 1,000 of this or 1,000 of that. Half of those movies, they may not be being watched. They might even have the shrink wrap pulled off a Blu-ray, right? And that can be a thing that you can get sucked into, and man, it will drain you of your love of physical media. Physical media should always be a fun, relaxing thing. It should not be something that you get stressed out about. If you're stressed out about physical media, that is a problem, in my opinion. So I've gotten to where I don't do that anymore. I make sure that I'm only going to get stuff that I know I want to do a video review on, or I just want to own. One of the two. Like, for instance, Last Voyage of the Demeter, I wanted to champion that movie big time. So, you know, a couple months ago when that came out, I was like, hell yeah, I'm getting that. I want to review that. And other films, which I like but don't love, I passed on. Or I didn't want to upgrade it. You know, like vampires, for instance. People were asking me if I was doing a review on Vampire. I said, listen, there will be other videos. I own a great Blu-ray of that. I'm happy with that. I'm going to pass on that. That's not saying that the 4K isn't great from that. I don't know. I'm sure it's really good. But my point is, I passed on that. Other releases like The Faculty. I like The Faculty, but people may be surprised that I'm not a huge fan of The Faculty. I like it. I did not want to spend the money to get the 4K. But other movies I want to get. So that's my point, is just try not to keep up with the Joneses, because I'm not I'm not trying to put myself on any sort of pedestal. I'm telling you, I went through that phase, and I think at a certain point we all do. And the sooner you realize it, the better off you'll be. It's a tough thing. So that's one thing. Now, here's one of the most important things. Blind buying a lot. I don't blind buy 60. I blind buy about 80% less than I used to. What does that mean in case you don't know? Blind buying means buying a movie that you have no idea what it is. You've never seen it before, and you get it on a whim. Maybe somebody says they liked it, or you just see a release online and you think it looks good. Blind buying, I think it can be a big detriment. Again, mistakes I've made was blind buying. It was not beneficial for me to do that. I can't tell you how many times I've blind bought movies, and as soon as I get it, I put it in the player, the artwork was great, and I realized, oh God, I'm never going to watch this again. I can give you an example. There was an Arrow Video movie I bought called Contamination. It was like an alien ripoff film. Bought it because I saw it at the, FYA. I thought the artwork was great, and at that time, getting boutique stuff was like an awesome thing. A piece of crap movie. I'll never watch it again. Or, to pick on Arrow again, I think it's called Mark of the Devil or Mask of the Devil. It's like an old 60s Hammer style movie about the Salem witch trial type stuff. Again, I'll never watch that again. Blind buying, man. And you got to remember too, in the physical media world, in the horror physical media world, blind buying, these titles aren't cheap. Now, if you have reviews you watch and you do your research, I wouldn't necessarily consider that blind buying. But if you're just getting stuff on a whim because you see a picture of it online, listen, I've been saying this in my reviews, and I don't think people listen to me or take my advice, and I can't expect people to just listen to everything I say and heed my words that often, because I'm somewhat of a goofball jackass myself, so I probably wouldn't listen to half the things I say. But I think people don't want to do this because they think it would negate their interest in getting a physical media. I just recorded a review before this of Venom 1981 from Blue and Arrow. I said, I like this movie, I think it's pretty good, but I definitely recommend seeing it before buying it. I have started to do that, and listen, I know that can sound kind of dumb because you're like, well, if I'm going to buy the release, that would be my watch. Yeah, but guess what? Thank God I started doing that, because there's a number of movies, especially stuff on Shudder, and I love Shudder, so this isn't necessarily a slight to them, but my point is there's a lot of stuff that gets put on Shudder that ends up getting Blu-ray releases and DVD releases you see at Walmart. Some of the titles are great, but I watch some of these movies and I'm like, thank God I just saw this on here, which I'm paying for Shudder already, which is $5.99 a month, and I just saved myself the $15, $20 for that Blu-ray. I'm never going to watch it again, because here's the thing, and this kind of goes into some of the comments I get, and they're nice comments. It's nice people. They'll say, dude, I love your movie wall. That's my goal. No. That is not your goal. That is not your goal. Your goal is to enjoy horror movies, enjoy collecting, enjoy comedies, enjoy whatever it is. Because here's the thing, like I said, when people look at the back wall, if I do videos where you can see over there, or my revolver shover, guys, that's collecting over a long period of time. Don't go out of your way to just fill shelves up because you want it to look good. I've seen it. I've seen people get insanely burnt out and just done with physical media because of this exact reason. Because they want to fill up the shelves and have that look. I get it. You want to replicate that feeling of the blockbuster we grew up with. I think subconsciously that's a thing we all love, is that feeling of the video store and walking in and being just in love with the wall of movies you see. It's great. Don't get me wrong. But my point is, my collecting is well documented. Go to my channel back in the day, look at my movie shelves, then go up a few years later, look at it again. It just grew organically. And I don't look at it as something I'm proud of. I don't think there's anything, I'll be honest with you, I don't think that there's anything you should be bragging about to say, I have blank number of movies. I find that ridiculous and I find that silly. You'll never hear me say, I've got 2,000 horror films. I've got 4,000 Blu-rays. Who gives a rat's ass? Tell me your favorite movies. Tell me which movies, pull off some movies and tell me which movies made an impact on your life. Tell me which movies impacted you. Tell me which movies you have great memories of. Who gives a rat's ass how many movies you have? You'll never hear me brag about the number of movies I have. The only time I even bring it up is when somebody asks me about it. It's not something I find the need to brag about. I think it's ridiculous to brag about how many movies you have. Any jackass can go to a flea market and just scoop up a whole row of movies and put it on a shelf. But tell me about the movies that you love. Tell me about the movies that changed your life. If you're a guest in my house and you came in, I would go to the wall and I would say, Phantom of the Paradise, man. I remember seeing that because blah, 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 the director, and that is a crazy-ass movie. You ought to check this out. The soundtrack is wild. The visuals are blah, blah, blah. Or Dog Soldiers, man. I heard this was a great werewolf film. Checked it out. Fell in love with it. I've got the Scream Factory release, but hey, that one doesn't really look that great. You see my point? I want to be able to look at the movie shelves and show you stuff that I think would be impactful to you or something that you would enjoy seeing. Who gives a rat's ass about how many movies you have? That's ridiculous. Don't brag about that. Believe me, people roll their eyes if you brag about how many movies you have. I promise you. Number 2, and this goes to a recent incident I just had, not doing research. Even me, as a stupid YouTuber, but I really try to put my emphasis on movies, not on physical media. I always want to talk to you about the movie first. I learned that from Pizzal, who's my YouTube hero, so to speak. I do YouTube because of Pizzal. I followed in his footsteps of making sure you're impacting, or you're trying to impact people through the love of movies, not through the slipcovers or packaging. Always talk about movie first. But anyway, my point is, not doing research will bite you in the ass. Don't just buy something and not do any research. And this goes for movies that I've already seen. Maybe it's a new release that you're excited about. What am I referencing? You named it, the damn chainsaw. The stupid chainsaw from Dark Sky Films. What was my problem? I didn't do a thing of research. I looked at the price tag. I said, oh, wow, this is going to be a super nice release. That's going to be a resin chainsaw. I assumed it was going to be made out of resin. How could I not? The price was so high. My idiot self didn't stop, read the descriptions well, go into more research on it, and stop myself from making that mistake. I had to own it. There's a video up on my channel called The Worst Buyer's Remorse of All Time or something like that. It's not exaggeration. It really was the worst purchase of my YouTube journey. And I had to eat crow for it. I had to tuck my tail between my legs, put myself on camera because people knew I bought it, and say, I'm a jackass. And that's what I did. And my point is, if you don't do the research, whether it be, okay, I saw this movie, I'm interested in this movie, I like the trailer, whatever you do to prep for wanting to buy a movie, whether you go on YouTube, watch a review of something, whether you go on the Blu-ray.com, look at the specs, just take those few extra minutes. For instance, right now there's a problem with the Texas Chainsaw 2 4K from Arrow. Some people may want to stop and say, okay, you know what, I'm not going to buy that now and have to go through the stressors of getting replacement discs. I'm going to wait a little bit and make sure that when I buy it at this point, they'll have remedied that problem already, and or I'll get the Vinegar Syndrome one and whatever. I'll just get the standard Vinegar Syndrome release, etc., etc., whatever it may be. You could think of a number of instances about this. Or, like the Sandpiper Pictures release with those sleepaway camps. I've had people message me saying they're so disappointed because they got these and it's just the damn movies. There ain't crap on them. They don't even look that great. I mean, they probably look okay. I'm sure that the same Scream Factory Blu-ray stand. But my point is, people are bummed out because they were expecting these to be boutique releases, and Sandpiper, they barely put the paper on the sleeve and put the disc on there. They're a small company. Somehow they got the rights to these movies. Do the research. Again, I'm not preaching or trying to preach to you or yell at you, the audience. I'm telling you, I sound stern right now because I have wasted my money because I didn't take the time to do the research. It's the biggest mistake that I think people can make. Another thing is losing sight of why you're collecting movies. You're collecting movies because you love the movies. This goes back to the first thing I talked about. I've been there. I've gone through the mistake of trying to keep up and look like I can do it. Don't do that. I'm a firm believer in you don't have to stick your hand in the fire to know it's hot. Learn from the mistakes of others. And I think that's truly important. Learn from the mistakes of others. Collect because you love movies. Collect because you're interested in learning about films through special features and that sort of thing. Don't look at the releases that are coming out that week and say, okay, I've got to buy this. Take a look at what you're going to be interested in. You know, I promise you, if you do go through that phase, you'll get out of it because it's eventually going to rear its ugly head on you. Remember why we're collecting. And again, I give all the credit to the guy that I do YouTube from, which is Pizzow. Movie first. Every single day of the week, movie first. I will always make sure if I review anything, it's 80% movie, 20% release. I'm just going to give you the facts about the release, but I'm going to talk to you about the movie, and that makes collecting exciting. I can't listen. When it comes to these Arrow releases of Friday the 13th, guess what? I can't wait to sit down and watch these goddamn movies because it's going to be a new experience through a new release, and it's going to be like watching it for the first time in a sense. I can't effing wait. And I guarantee you, when I review the Arrow, Jason Goes to Hell, and Jason X, my bitch ass will talk about Jason X for at least 10 minutes, and I'll tell you why it's one of the best, slashers of the 2000s, why it's actually smarter than you think it is. It knew what it was trying to do. I'll tell you exactly why Uber Jason's a great design, and I'll talk to you about Jason Goes to the same thing. I'm still gonna I won't shut up about Jason Goes to Hell. I'll talk to you about why John D. LeMay's the man. I won't shut the hell up about it, is my point. So never lose sight of why you're collecting, for the love of the movies. Here's another thing. This is kind of silly, but having brand loyalty. For some reason, for a while, I was just buying everything Scream Factory was putting out. Now, when I say for a while, I'm talking like 2018, 19, and 20. Whatever they were putting out, I was just getting it. And I was focusing more on them, and I wasn't stopping and smelling the roses and looking at the other companies and the great things that were happening. Before my very eyes, although I had blinders on, these other companies were not only coming around, but having a greater foothold in America, like Arrow, and putting out great releases that I was playing catch-up on a while later when I could have been enjoying better releases and more interesting titles at that time. I just could have. Brand loyalty, you're not going to get anywhere with that. There's no reason to have brand loyalty. Here's the thing. You're a customer. You should be doing the best thing for you and your wallet. And what does that also mean, having brand loyalty? You know, if you want to watch Big Trouble in Little China and you couldn't give a rat's ass about special features or interviews with some of the supporting cast, then go get the cheap $10 Blu-ray from Warner Brothers themselves that they have multiple versions out of. Brand loyalty, these companies don't give a fuck if you have brand loyalty. They don't care. If your Scream Factory doesn't care if you bought more Arrow video titles in 1 year. Arrow doesn't care if you bought more Second Sight releases than them in that year. Like, they're putting out a product that they hope a customer base is interested in, and their job is to do the best releases they can, as opposed to all these other companies. So having brand loyalty, I just find to be silly. And then you just start to look like a shill to your audience if you're a YouTuber. If you do that, if you say, well, this is why Scream Factory is better and they're always better. No, just call it like you see it on any release you get. That's the other thing. And the last thing, and people are going to roll their eyes at me, but I swear to God, I believe this firmly, was waiting so long to go region free. Yes, I'm sorry, waiting so long to go region free. I saw so many people last year comment on my review, message me privately, ask me, okay, Christian, I'm going to get a player, what's it take? What am I talking about? That Blair Witch Second Sight release, which was easily the best release of last year. Absolutely fantastic release last year. The greatest documentary on a horror movie I've seen since God knows when. The start of the documentary for Blair Witch was the end of the movie in the house, and then one of the eyes picks up the camera, and they're in the house, and they're like, yeah, we did it. The start of that documentary was amazing. It was a Blu-ray release from Second Sight, and it was Region B. I was told from my peers and people above me, don't wait, go region free. You can open up windows to getting releases of movies that aren't available in America and or out of print in America. And this is what I tell people. I swear I'm not making this up. this player will pay for itself. The player will pay for itself. What do I mean by that? If you buy a player for about $120, $130 tops, I recommend the LG player, but there's a great Sony region-free Blu-ray player as well. Get a region-free Blu-ray player. The next time you want to pick up a title that's out of print, oh, well, great. 88 Films has that in stock too, and I can get it for MSRP price of like $15. Pretend you bought the out-of-print version, take all that money, start subtracting it from the price of the player. I saved a ton of money that way. And I get better releases than America has or doesn't even have a competition release to yet, like Blair Witch. That's just one example. I could go on and on. I still think Blu-ray is a strong format. I don't think it's going anywhere. Being Blu-ray region-free is something I still have a lot of trust and hope in. I trust that I know that I've never once regretted going region-free. I put it to you like that. Not once have I ever regretted going region-free. I know people are going to say, whatever, Christian, I'm not doing. I get that, but listen, just believe me, consider it, think about it, because I have some of my favorite releases of all time are region-free, or they're like second sight releases or whatever, but the special features are on the Blu-ray discs and things like that I can enjoy that you couldn't. And these companies overseas, like Second Sight, they do amazing stuff. Now, they are starting to put the special features on 4K discs, but there's still a lot of releases that Second Sight does that's Blu-ray, and you can't watch it in the movie or the special features. So that's the thing, guys. Go region-free. If you want the player, let me know. I'll drop it down in the link down below. I've used an LG player that's great, but like I said, there's also a Sony player that's good. 4K as a format is region-free, but Blu-ray I still think is a strong physical media format. So, especially overseas. So, those are some of the things I've gone through. A lot of this is stuff you guys know, but I like to be transparent and sometimes just shoot the breeze with you guys and be totally honest about the things I've been through, the things I do. And at the end of the day, guys, I love physical media because I love movies, and that's the whole crux of this whole thing. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Let me know what you guys think about this. What are your concerns of physical media that you've had? What are some of the mistakes you've gone through? And why do you collect is a great question too. So let me know down below, guys. God bless you guys, and I'll see y'all next time. Huge, giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind-the-scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.